You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 192. And today I've got a guest who's going to reveal the cure for all those lost leads that are leaking money right out of your bank account. You ready for this? Let's get started.
Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Hey, are you a thought leader, creative entrepreneur, or change maker and want to magnify your impact, boost influence while creating a financial abundance? Stay tuned for today's inspiring episode with your host, Melanie Benson.
Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. Guess who it is? It's your host, Melanie Benson, profit amplifier to expertpreneurs and people who are building a business around their expertise. And they're looking for ways to boost their visibility, to get in front of more ideal, perfect clients, and raise their profile and their authority in their industry. And if that's you, then you definitely want to tune in today. I can't wait to share my guest with you. But first, our theme today is finding those lost leads, recovering them, getting them back into your business. But first, of course, you need to get those leads in, right? There's a lot of paid lead generation techniques that are really valuable. But when you're looking for low-cost ways to get perfect clients to show up, not just in your lead magnet, but actually calling you and saying, how can we work together? Then you want to make sure that you are guesting on podcasts. Virtual events are great, but podcasts are evergreen. They never go away. And it's one of my favorite ways to get authentically your message in front of perfect clients who are looking for solutions that you are providing. And because podcasts are growing so quickly, there is an embedded need, an intrinsic need for content right now. So people are actively looking for great guests just like you. But just because you know how to share your message doesn't mean you know how to translate it to podcast guesting. And I've been doing podcasts for 8-9 years now, and I can spot immediately who's making one of the 17 mistakes that costs you the lead and who's really nailed a magnetic message that's going to translate to paying clients. And I want to help you get kickstarted in this process. Head over to getmagneticmessaging.com/report. Download my resource guide. I want to take you through what these mistakes are because you can immediately transition what you're doing and start magnetically inspiring people to show up in your inbox, to get on the phone and ask you to work with them by simply changing the things that cost you those leads. So head over to getmagneticmessaging.com/report. I will also link it up in the show notes. Now, let me introduce my guest today. All right, we're in for a treat today. We're going to be talking to my special guest about how to find those lost leads and get them back into your business. Let me introduce you to Kimberly Weitkamp. Now, she is a successful marketing strategist and conversion copywriter. She's the host of the Audience Converter podcast and co-host of Chatting with Copywriters. She developed the audience conversion method to help entrepreneurs convert their audience from strangers to loyal fans. And Kimberly works with her clients to attract, build, and grow an engaged audience to create long-term customers through things like email marketing, conversion copywriting, and storytelling. And she's dedicated to helping people in the world make a positive impact by building their community through the right marketing and strategy. So Kimberly, it's so nice to have you join me today.
Hi, Melanie. I'm so excited to be here and to talk with you about this topic. I'm really stoked to dive in.
So Kim, do you like going by Kim or Kimberly? Which do you prefer?
Kimberly is great.
Okay, perfect. So Kimberly, we're talking about leads that get lost and what we can do about it. And I know, having coached online business owners, entrepreneurs, and coaches for a really long time, that this is one of those gray zones that everybody gets a little stuck in. So I just want to know, before we dig into all of this, like, why is this such a confusing, conflicting place for business owners? These, when they're losing leads and, they're kind of almost like, it's like they don't really care or they don't know what to do. So they don't do anything.
Such a great question. And I think part of it goes back to kind of what a lot of people see about marketing online, especially. And that is, there's so much around the idea of you need to get more people, you need to get more leads, you need to get more leads. And there's very little out there about, once you have those leads, you should keep them and you should engage with them and you should grow them and you should nurture them and they should become a part of your community. There's just so much emphasis on the front of getting more people in that there's not a lot of information and a lot of positive views, I guess, on people kind of nurturing and keeping in touch with their leads. So I think part of it is the idea that so many people are worried about, oh, I need so much more traffic, or I need more leads, I need more leads. They kind of forget that they have all of these people who've already gone through the process of raising their hand and saying, hey, I like what you have to say. I'd like to learn more. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I've always heard that once you have the lead, it's the least expensive thing you can do to nurture them and move them into a potential client than going out and getting more leads. So why wouldn't we do this, right?
Absolutely. It is usually a lot easier once they're in your ecosystem, if you will, once they're kind of in your sphere of influence, to keep them. And it's a lot cheaper to convert them. It's a lot easier to kind of build a community from the people who've already raised their hand because they've already taken that first step and expressed an interest. So why not keep in touch with them? But life gets in the way. People get busy, or another really common thing I hear is people are then afraid to continue to reach out to people. They're like, well, they said yes once, but I don't think they're going to keep saying yes. So I don't want to I don't want to bother them too much, which is a mindset thing.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get into what are the most common reasons that these leads are getting lost?
Absolutely. So one of the most common reasons leads are getting lost is I like to talk about the leads that people don't know they already have. And that's the people who, for some way, shape, or form, right? They've done a search on Google, they've seen something you put onto social media, whatever it is, they get onto your website, and then they don't have a way to kind of keep in touch with you without having to come back to your website. And that's when a lot of people don't have like an opt in form, or they don't have a freebie or a gift of some kind, or a reason for people to sign up to your email list. So there's all these people, there's all this traffic you're getting, which within 8 seconds or 30 seconds or a minute, they're like, oh, yeah, this could be interesting. I'd like to learn more. But there's no easy way for them to say, yes, I want to hear from you again. And they leave their website and they forget about it and then they never come back. So that's like the first part is all these people who have found you. They've managed to land on your website. They've managed to find you on social media, but there isn't an easy way for them to kind of keep in touch with you or for you to keep in touch with them. And they kind of, if you've ever done a search online, right, you go to one site and you click a link and then you click another and you click another, and within 10 minutes you visited like 15 different places. So you really want to be able to capture those people who have landed there and are like, oh yes, this is right for me. Maybe I need to go do something, but I'd like to learn more about it in the future. Another reason leads kind of disappear is that we're so busy doing what we're really, really great at that we kind of forget about the fact that we need to be keeping in touch with our leads on a regular basis. Consistency is key when finding those lost leads and making sure that they are staying engaged with you and what you do and your philosophy and how you help people. And one of the reasons it's so easy to kind of let that fall to the side is a lot of people do have this idea in their head that, oh, I don't want to bother people who are on my list already. So I'm not going to contact them unless I have something that I want them to do.
And I think I've seen that a lot too. And that whole mindset thing of, oh, I don't want to be a bother. I don't want people to feel like I'm selling, selling, selling. But you do need to stay in contact. You need to stay in connection. So is there a rule of thumb of how often you should stay in touch with these people who've raised their hand in some way?
My rule of thumb in general is no less than once a week. And the reason for that is pretty straightforward. Once a week, you can kind of tell yourself you're not being a bother because you're not contacting them every day. So a lot of people are really reluctant to do daily emails. So once a week, it's also a lot easier for people to keep in touch once a week because you can batch your content. You can kind of think ahead a little bit and maybe schedule out 2 or 3 weeks in advance so you're not constantly scrambling to get something out there. And also, it's a great way for you to stay top of mind, show your value, but not be constantly in somebody's inbox. So, no less than once a week is what I usually tell people. But that, of course, It depends on where they are in like their stage of awareness, like how much do they know about you, how familiar are they with you. So for example, if it's just after they've signed up to your list, I recommend, you send them 2 or 3 emails over the course of 3 or 4 days saying, reminding them about what they asked for, reminding them about why they signed up to your list, and reminding them about who you are and what you do, so that when you start sending that more regular contact, they remember you, right? If we know who is sending us stuff in our inbox, we're a lot more likely to open it. But if you send that freebie and then you wait another 6 days, they've maybe signed up for a bunch of more freebies, or they maybe had something really big happen in their lives and they haven't checked their inbox in 3 days, and then they don't remember who you are or why you're in your inbox.
And from my own personal experience, this also affects your overall email deliverability, especially if they stop paying attention to you, right?
Yes. So deliverability is one of those things that a lot of people don't really understand. It's techie, it's confusing. They're like, I just don't want to think about it. But basically, deliverability means if you send out something and the people that you're sending it to are opening it, they're not immediately, putting it into trash. They're not immediately unsubscribing, and they continue to open when you send a message. That means you have good deliverability. And the way you get that is, of course, being consistent so that they know to expect that you're going to be sending them a message, and also being valuable and, sending them information that they're actually going to want to have. And one of the things I said was unsubscribes. And that's something a lot of people are afraid of. They're like, oh, no, if I send out an email and I get unsubscribes, it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. And actually, it's a really good thing for you and your business, because usually you can expect, about a 1%, right? You send out your messages and a couple of people are going to say, oh, right, I don't want to hear from them anymore. I'm going to unsubscribe. That's great news for you, because they realize that, oh, this is not a right fit for me, or they're never going to become your buyer in the future anyway. So instead of taking up space on your list, instead of sending out something where people don't want to hear from you, they take the option to unsubscribe. And that's really great for you, because as long as that rate is low, you're still realizing that the information you send, if you send it to 100 people and one person says no thank you, that means 99 people are saying, oh, well, no, that might be interesting. If they open it today, maybe they open it tomorrow, but you still have those 99 people who are like, yeah, I remember I wanted to hear from this person. I can't wait to go open this and read this later.
I'm glad you're bringing this. I wasn't planning on talking about email deliverability, but I'm glad we're talking about it, because you're talking about leads, right? And one of the things that really helps a lead move from being interested to hiring you or buying your programs is they want to know more. So I think we should clarify what a lead is not. And I will start this off by saying a lead is not someone you've connected with on LinkedIn or any other social media, or you've met in person that you automatically add to your subscriber list. So what are your thoughts on that, Kimberly?
Absolutely. I come from a place of marketing, and compliance is king. And that means that basically, if you have a list, you always have to ask. It's not enough for you to now get someone's business card and be like, oh, look, I went to this networking event. I got 15 cards. I've got 15 new people to add to my list. What I always do is I reach out to those people and say, hey, I have an email list that gives you this benefit. My benefit is you get weekly marketing insights and fun anecdotes. Other people, it might be something like get life hacks to increase your productivity every week. Whatever it is that you're going to be benefiting your readers, ask if it's okay to put them on your list. And that means they are a lead. And that means there's somebody who in the future may want to hire you or buy something from you. If you meet somebody and they're a great referral source, for example, right? They're somebody who maybe knows other people who you could become your potential clients, but they themselves are not going to be that potential client. I put them into like lead adjacent category, but they're not necessarily what I would call a lead. To me, a lead is somebody who you have the opportunity, they might become a buyer in the future and then become a more active part of your community.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. And I think sometimes people don't understand, just because you've run across somebody's contact information they're not a lead. You don't just auto enroll them into your stuff, because they're just going to not read it, or they're going to tell the spam police that you're a spammer. And those are
Yes.
all bad things. So you really want leads to be someone who's raised their hand, they're interested, they said, can you send me more information? Or they've opted into one of your freebies, which I'm sure you're going to talk about, because this is really great professional practices here.
Absolutely. And it's also the law. I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on this podcast. But most countries have some sort of anti-spam rule that says people actually have to say, yes, I want to hear from you, before you can start sending them automated emails. And that means if you're using an email program like MailChimp or ConvertKit or any of those, and you're sending out one message to many people at once, you need to have their permission to send them those messages. And the way you get that, of course, is by what Melanie was talking about, which is lead magnets. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is when people land on your website, that's the first opportunity you have to connect with them and then bring them into a more personal conversation. And the way that happens is, if they're looking for a particular problem, they have a problem, they're looking for an answer, they're looking for a solution, can you give them a quick win? And those quick wins you can usually make into like a download, a free PDF guide, a quiz, a checklist, whatever works best for your audience. But that's what you call a lead magnet. When you're going to give them something of value that relates to what they're looking for, that relates to what you do and to the problem that they have, and then they get into your email list. And when people sign up for those lead magnets, then of course you say something like, hey, you signed up for this lead magnet. A lot of email provider marketing tools, they have something called, they have another email that's going to get sent to that person that says, hey, we want to make sure that you want to receive this. Click this extra button to subscribe. They have that extra step. Some people have it, some people don't. But if that happens, that is your first opportunity to really shine as you, as yourself, as what you are offering, instead of saying, we really want to make sure you want this, click subscribe below again, which maybe is a little bit of an interruption to them. You want to use that opportunity to personalize that, what I call boilerplate copy, or the template. And that's an opportunity for you to really start to make that connection. Because one of the most popular phrases I've come across is, it's not the subject line of your emails, it's the from line of your emails, right? If mom sends you an email, it's usually got about 100% open rate. So you want to become one of those people that they look forward to receiving the message from. So you do that starting in that very first email that you send out, no matter what the content is.
And that's great advice. I never thought of it like that. Like, yeah, I will open every email my mom sends me.
Yes, you will open every email your mother sends you, or, family sends you. But, if you've ever come back from like being away for a bit, right, from business, and you go into your inbox and you're like, oh gosh, I have 1,000 unread messages. You don't look at the subject lines first. What you do is you start scrolling and looking at the from line. Oh, that's somebody maybe I want to hear. And then you look over to the subject line, because right now you're looking for the most important messages. And that's kind of how a lot of people are just day to day in their inbox, because we all have a lot of email.
Yeah, you're right. We do. So how do we know when it's time to let go of a lead?
Absolutely. It's a great question, because a lot of us, as I said earlier, we're kind of worried about that. Like, oh no, what happens if they unsubscribe? But then there's the other side of it. We're like, oh no, what happens if they stop opening? And there's a couple of different ways to approach this. But basically what I say is, if somebody has stopped opening your messages, you can move them to what you call a cold subscriber list. So you can choose the rules for who gets onto those lists. But basically, it's like, well, if they've stopped opening my messages, what are the chances they're going to continue to keep not opening my messages? And those chances are pretty high. So you can do like a last ditch effort, which is you move them to this list, and then you can send them what people call a re-engagement campaign. And it's 2 or 3 messages saying, hey, do you still want to hear from me? Are you still interested in what I offer? And if they say no, great. You know that they're not going to become buyers. They've unsubscribed. And it's one less person that you have to continue to wonder if they're ever going to become part of your community. If they don't open those messages, then the chances that they're going to continue to not open your messages are pretty high. So at this point, some people decide, oh, I really want to not get rid of them quite yet. So they put them like on a list that only gets like a once a month email, or that only gets like the big promotional emails, because maybe they will eventually re-engage. But I'd say after 3 to 6 months of somebody not opening your messages, it's probably a great idea to just go ahead and remove them. If they come across you in the future again and then, find a new freebie that you have and re-enroll in your list, that's great. But most likely, if it's been 6 months, then that means they're also kind of forgetting who that person is in their inbox. When they open their inbox and they see your name, they're scrolling past it, which means, do they remember who you are? Do they remember what you do? Probably not. So it's the right time to go ahead and remove them.
Yeah, that's really good practice. I think the techie term is list hygiene. Really keeping the list clean.
Yeah, it's called like scrubbing your list, or cleaning your list, or there's all kinds of fun words for it. And it's one of those things that you can set up your email program to do automatically. So, if they haven't opened in 3 months, then put them into this other list, and then send them that re-engagement campaign. And then after 6 months, if they still haven't opened, you remove them, because, after 6 months, right, it's very unlikely, in an inbox at least, that they're going to suddenly change their mind.
I have to say, doing this practice, my team and I routinely move people off my list. I think if they don't interact for 3 months, we move them off. But we do re-engage them. And I've actually had people re-engage 2 or 3 years later and buy something or enrolling in a program, because the timing is different for them at that stage. So I'll give you a little plug for the re-engagement, like just staying connected with them every 3 to 6 months, send them something new, because you never know when people are in a different space and they want something that you've got that's new and different.
Absolutely. And that's kind of another area where a lot of people get lost. They think, oh, if they didn't buy this time, then they're never going to buy. And that's the wrong mentality to have, because there's so many other things going on in every single person's life that it may not be the right time. It maybe has absolutely nothing to do. In fact, 80% of the time, it has absolutely nothing to do whatever your offer is. It's just that it's not the right time for that person. So in 6 months, if you send out that promotion again, like let's say you open access to your membership twice a year, that might be the right time. So there's no reason to assume that because they didn't like it the first time, they didn't say yes the first time, they won't say yes again in the future. And what I have found is a lot of people will find that somebody gets moved off, they get that re-engagement campaign, they don't open it, they're completely not an active participant for like 6 months, and they get removed from the list. But then they find you again later on in their business, in their lives, and that may be through a giveaway. They find you again on social media, they see a new freebie you have out, whatever it is, and suddenly they're like, oh, I liked getting that stuff, and they subscribe, right? They join you again. So just because you take somebody off doesn't mean they won't come back. But when they do come back, they're usually a lot more ready to be a part of your community.
Well said. I'm so glad you're talking about this, because I know it's a lot. Like if you're listening in, you're going, wow, it's a lot of work. But I got to tell you, if email marketing is one of the most powerful ways to move a lead from being interested in something to being invested in working with you and or buying your programs and products. But there's a lot of little nuances. And I know, Kimberly, this is one of the things you do well in the world out there. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, is there any specific do's or best practices to stop leads from getting lost in our overall strategy?
Absolutely. One of the most important things that you need to do, and I talk about this in my Crafting Your Perfect Welcome series guide, is that you need to be you in your marketing. You need to be you in your marketing. And what I mean by that is, if somebody interacts with you, especially if like you're a coach or if you have a course of some sort, you want your email to be kind of a little taste of what it's like to work with you, of what it's like to interact with you, of what it might be like if you became my coach. And the way to do that is to be yourself in marketing. And when I first started out, I didn't have a business degree. I had very little business background. I was traveling the world and teaching English, and then I decided to become a copywriter. So I had the only idea I had in my head was you had to be super formal in business writing. I had my 10th grade English class on how to write a business letter, and that was it. And that's how I started to interact with people online and in email. And very early on, I met somebody at a conference, and they were completely shocked that it was me and not the person they had been talking to online. They're like, there's such a disconnect. I wasn't sure I wanted to work with you because what I saw on the emails was so formal. I thought it'd be too formal for my business. But meeting you in person, I'm really excited to move forward. And so that kind of quickly solidified in my head, oh, email should be a reflection of you. It needs to be a reflection of your business and what it's like to work with you. So most importantly, it is to be yourself in your email. And if that means that some people unsubscribe because they don't like the way you approach things, that's great too, because it means you're not a great fit to work together, and you were never going to be a great fit to work together, because they would be in for a big surprise if they were basing it entirely on how you were in email. And then like that first coaching call was completely different, and they didn't like your approach, and they didn't like, the way you spoke about, I don't know, sci-fi pop culture. And so they didn't want to move forward with you. So really, really important to be you in your email. That's number one.
That's number one. Great. Is there any more? Or now that you've teased us like this,
yes,
this is really helpful.
Yeah, that's number one. Number two is consistency and meeting expectations. So I always tell people, let people know how often they're going to hear from you. If it's going to be, oh yeah, it'll be at least once a week, and then whenever I have something fun to tell you, tell people that's how often they're going to hear from you. And then fulfill on those expectations. Those are really, really important, because if you tell people you're going to be contacting them on Mondays, and then 2 Mondays pass and you haven't contacted them, then it kind of breaks the trust a little bit. This is the time when you can build that know, like, and trust factor. And they say that in order for someone to be ready to buy from you, it usually takes 5 to 12 touch points. But online, if you haven't met in person, that increases to like 15 to 30. So you really want to be consistent, and you want to meet your promises that you've said that you're going to meet. And that can really build the trust with people. Even if they've never had a personal conversation with you, they know that what you're saying and what you're doing, you're going to fulfill on those promises. So that's number two, is to make expectations. And then number three is to meet your expectations. And people kind of like it when they're aware of that. So even if you are choosing to do the daily email, then people know, oh, I'm going to hear from them every day. So they're not surprised. So you'll see a lot less unsubscribes if instead you have somebody sign up, they get your freebie, and suddenly you're emailing them 3 times a day. They're like, what? I didn't know this was going to be this frequent. And they immediately unsubscribe.
Yeah. And I think finding that right tempo of how many times to email versus not emailing enough, that's really key. And that consistency, I think you're right. That's one of the most important ingredients. So I'm glad you brought that up. How does somebody stay in touch with you, learn more about you, or maybe even have a first step that you can give them a taste of how you work with people?
Absolutely. You can go to theaudienceconverter.com/giveaway, and you can grab a copy of the guide I mentioned, Crafting the Perfect Welcome Series, and you can get onto my list and learn a little bit about how I operate. And inside of that, it'll have the 3 tips I talked about, go into a little bit more detail. And also it details, what it is that you're going to want to do to start building that connection and building that relationship with everyone who joins your list. There's 7 tips in total, and they're all really great. And that's a really great way for people to kind of get a taste of what it is like, right, to work with me. So that's the first starting point, I would say.
I love it. I love that that's your giveaway too. And just a little secret formula to learn how to do emails well is follow some people on their lists that you resonate with and pay attention to how they bond and connect with their readers and their audience. It's a really powerful way. And I would highly suggest following Kimberly because she knows her stuff. And this is a great tool that you should have access to anyway. But what you do is you start to kind of indoctrinate yourself into how to create a connection with your audience. Because, I highly recommend, working with a copywriter. I've worked with copywriters for years and years and years to help me craft really compelling, powerful messaging and email marketing. It is a science, but just really kind of learning that tempo is really a great way to do that by following people that you like and respect. So theaudienceconverter.com/giveaway to get Kimberly's How to Craft the Perfect Welcome series. And I don't want you to just get the series, read the emails and go, okay, that was interesting. I want you to put it into action. Like, remember, amplifying is about doing the things, the small things that really propel results. And this is one of those things that's so key to getting better results.
Absolutely. And, if you sign up, like Melanie said, and I highly recommend it as well, you can also find the places where you don't like the way they interact with people, because that's not you. And you can notice how their personality starts to come through a little bit.
Or doesn't.
Or doesn't.
Right?
That's right.
Those stiff emails that you're like, who is this emailing me? Like, oh yeah. That's one of those people that put me on their list from LinkedIn. No, just kidding.
Right? Or the boilerplate copy. It's like, thank you for subscribing. Click here.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Right. There's a lot of things to do, little nuances that can really help your brand and your personality and your authenticity shine. And, Kimberly's brought up a lot of really great little, like the little places that you can have a big impact on the reader and the audience that you're building up.
Absolutely.
So Kimberly, I know that at the end of my conversations, I always like to go a little personal and connect to something about your journey, a place where you made a bold decision or you took a bold action that's really propelled you to where you are today in your business. What would that be for you?
Absolutely. So, I started out writing in a completely different industry, and I did it for a couple of years, and I slowly built up my network, and I made lots of connections, and I realized though that I wasn't really happy doing it anymore. There was too much education and pre-education, and the close rate was like 6 to 12 months after talking to somebody. That's when they were ready to move forward, and it was a little bit too long for me. So my big bold action was meeting a bunch of people at NMS. Not even, I think we're now at about 7 months ago, was my first time going to the New Media Summit and realizing that those were my people. Those are the people I really, really, really wanted to serve. I wanted to help. I loved what they were doing, and I was really excited about the idea of being able to help them build their businesses, because then my help would amplify their help, because they were reaching, lots of people as well. And so even though my business was only a couple of months old, I decided to join a giveaway. Where I created a PDF guide and said, okay, this is what I do. This is who I help, even though I had only been helping this new audience for a couple of months. And it worked out really well. I increased my email list by 400%.
Wow, that's quite a testimonial to taking action. And I didn't realize that some of this, this pivot has taken off relatively new for you. So well done on jumping in and swimming fast.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And I was like, you know what? I've got to do this because I'm tired of being where I am. And at this point in time, at least, no longer serving the travel industry is actually a good thing. But I dived in and I put my website up in a week, and then just kind of, moved forward really, really quickly, because I was like, this is what I want to do, and this is where I need to focus my attention.
So Kimberly's just said something profound, and I want to illuminate a piece of this because sometimes you don't know why you're being guided to do certain things, or to stretch and go to events that don't make sense, or maybe terrify you, or you don't know if you're going to afford it, or you don't know how it's going to pay off. But listening to those intuitive hits and paying attention when you're given opportunities that somehow seem right, but you don't know why, say yes.
Yes.
Say yes. Really, really trust those intuitive nudges, because Kimberly just revealed that she was in the travel agency, and if she was still there, or travel industry, if she was still there, it would not be good right now. So you never know what you're Yeah, you never know. So I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you. And thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom and your great talent around helping people capture and nurture those leads, and how to avoid the fear you're going to lose leads. You're not going to lose the right leads, but you do have to guide them. And that's a great takeaway from today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Great. Well, as you're listening in, remember, we're going to create some dialogue about this in the Amplify Your Success podcast. I'm going to be giving you a challenge to implement what Kimberly is teaching us here. What's one thing you can do to your welcome sequence using her resource that she shared? And we'll even connect her into the conversation. So if you've got questions, hopefully she'll be able to jump in and give you some guidance and some answers. So look for that post in the Amplify Your Success community the week that this goes live.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
This is Melanie Benson, your host. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you want to catch up on any of the show notes and circle back on any of the resources we shared in today's show, head on over to the show page at amplifyyoursuccesspodcast.com. And remember, you amplify your results faster when you're in a community of other people who are moving and shaking. Join us at amplifyyoursuccesscommunity.com. One last thing. When you've gained insight from today's episode, help us share that and inspire other people by heading over to iTunes, subscribing, and give it a review. iTunes absolutely loves seeing these reviews pop up, and it actually helps boost my show's visibility. So I would be super grateful for your reviews. And as always, I love seeing your shares of these episodes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come find me over there. Tag me in your shares. I'll give you some social media love right back. So see you next week for another inspiring episode of Amplify Your Success Podcast.